Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Hello and welcome to this video. I hope everyone's doing well. I hope everyone's having fun. And I hope the universe is treating you fairly. This is kind of a bonus video because I had not anticipated the release of the trailer for Dune Part 3 by Denis Villeneuve. I'm intrigued by what he has to do because there's a whole bunch of circles he has to square before to make this movie work. And that is because the first two movies, Dune Part 1 and Part 2, he had to dumb those stories down so much in order for the mass American movie-going audience to understand. And basically, to do this Part 3, he's got to dumb down Dune Messiah, which is a very short novel by Frank Herbert in relation to all the other novels that Herbert wrote in the Dune universe. That and Children of Dune. Dune Messiah is pretty much a transition book. It's kind of an extended prologue for Children of Dune. Kind of the same way that Stephen King's Gunslinger is a prologue to the Drawing of Three in the Dark Tower series. It's interesting because basically the original Dune novel was, at its heart, in its simplest terms, don't trust rich white people as your leader. Dune Messiah transitions that message into, oh, by the way, also don't trust rich white people that incorporate government with religion and make it one tapestry. And that's the message through Messiah and Children of Dune. The fact that Jason Momoa got his son Nokia Wolf Momoa to play Leto II, and Ida Brooke is playing Ganima. Presumably they're not going to CGI them into infants because they're not born until the end of Dune Messiah. Matter of fact, their birth culminates in the climax of that story. Then we go into Children of Dune. And it's real easy and it makes sense if Villeneuve just hits the high points of Dune Messiah and jumps right into Children of Dune. Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to be able to do that because let's face it, this is America and we fucked off our education system for the last 60 years. And I really don't think the general movie-going audience is intelligent enough, if he was to be more faithful to the books, to understand it. So yeah, I'm intrigued because so far the trailer dropped, and one of my favorite villains, and there may be more trailers coming out, one of my favorite villains in Dune Messiah is a dwarf named Bajaz. I have a feeling that Villeneuve is going to roll that character into Skytale, who I believe, Skytale is being played by Robert Batman Patterson. So yeah, we'll see how he does that. Watching the trailer, I'm kind of, one of the things that I see in the trailer, and I can understand depending on how much it would have cost and how much they've spent on their budget on other things, but in the novel, the Duncan Idaho Gola, or Hate, before he unlocks his genetic memory, the Gola Hate has steel eyes. They describe him looking like ball bearings, and that he sees through them much like the same way a spider sees through their eyes or a fly sees through his eyes. So they didn't do that. It looks like from the trailer that the Gola eyes are regular human eyes. I wonder if, because they completely nerfed the concept of the mantets, mantets. That doesn't sound right to my ears right now, but they nerfed those, the whole backstory, where they came from, why they're there, the fact they're human computers, is it's going to be kind of hard to, unless you spend a lot of fucking runtime explaining the Golas or the Mantats, and the fact that the Hate Gola, i.e. Duncan Idaho, is what he's doing. The character of Skytale in the novel is basically, his purpose there is to obfuscate what Irulan, the Bene Gesserit, the Guild Steersmen, and the Tlaxa are doing to try to overthrow Paul Atreides as Emperor of the known universe. And they're making, Denis Villeneuve is making the choice to have a 17-year time jump between the end of Dune and the beginning of Dune 3. In the books, that is a 12-year difference. And I think the reason for that is the whole Ilia, and once Duncan Idaho's genetic memory gets triggered and he stops being the Gola Hate and becomes Duncan Idaho again, there's a whole, well, it starts when Hate is first introduced to Alia. Paul's younger sister. For brevity, I'm not going to go into the whole abomination and explain that, but the Reader's Digest version is because she was in her mom's womb when her mom took the water of life. She was born with all her ancestral memories, both male and female, all the way back to Mother Eve and Father Adam. And because she didn't have her own personality, her own course in life, her own self-confidence, she didn't have the proper mental training like a standard Bene Gesserit. Plus, the standard issue Bene Gesserit could only access the female memories back to Mother Eve. So yeah, you get that, and that's a whole thing, which starts to bloom at the end of Messiah. But when hate is first introduced in the novel in Dune Messiah, and Paul takes hate to meet Aaliyah. Aaliyah's 12 years old. She's naked. She's working out in the gym. And hate immediately falls in love with her. So I understand the 17-year time jump versus the 12-year time jump. I mean, mind you, over the course of the novel, hate doesn't act on these emotions for 6 years. So at the time in the novel, she is at age of consent by today's standards, by what we consider normal in America. She's when they hook up and start consummating. But the fact is, and I imagine the whole Epstein thing going around right now played into this, having, a fully developed, fully grown man falling in love with a 12-year-old. Yeah, that would have issues, and especially in America. At the time the book came out in late 60s, I think it originally came out in five installments in a monthly periodical that was picked up and put together as a novel later, but it was in 1969 and it ended in November 69. The last thing came out in 69. Let me see my notes. Yeah, it was novelized. Yeah, it was first published in Galaxy magazine in 1969. Then first published as a novel by Berkeley Publishing in 1970. So yeah, this book is almost as old as I am. Or actually, it's older than I am because, yeah, it's interesting. So, like I said, the themes of the novel and going into Children of Dune is basically don't trust white people to save you, rich white people to save you. Don't trust rich white people that want to blend government and religion as one thing. This is at this moment in time, this is going to be an interesting, what traps that Villeneuve is going to set for the movie-going audience, because this book and Dune, this especially Dune Messiah, Children of Dune to a certain point, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But it basically sets up that you have a charismatic leader who has decided he's going to go to war and kill anyone who says anything remotely bad about him or thinks about saying something bad about him. And the novel, there's a 12-year gap, and during that 12 years, the Fremen, being led by Paul Moadib Atreides, has killed a little over 61 billion, with a capital B, people. And it's... I wonder how they're going to do that. And he sterilized like 91 worlds. And when I say sterilized, basically they're floating rocks in space, kind of like Venus or Pluto or something like that. They're just rocks hanging out in space, devoid of atmosphere, life, everything. Unfortunately, it looks like from the trailer that Villeneuve is leaning into the war aspect of it. And with what's going on in the world today, I can see it. It's going to dilute the story. But that's what he may have to do to get it past Warner Brothers and into the theaters and make money. And I hope this character is there and just hasn't been shown in the the released cast announcements or in the first trailer that was released. And that there's a character called Bijaz. Bijaz is a Tlaxu. He's a dwarf. He's a Gola. He's a dwarf who speaks in rhyme and riddle. In fact, there's after he's gifted, he's given to Paul Atreides as a gift. And he, like I said, he talks in rhyme, he talks in riddles. It's kind of like, if you read comic books, especially Batman comic books, it's kind of like the character of the Riddler and Etrigan the Demon merged into one. And there's a sequence in Dune Messiah in which I think it's either Stilgar or Gurney asks Bijaz, why you talk like this? And Bijaz's retort is, I don't talk like anything. I use a machine, and that machine is language, and I use it efficiently. And it is just wonderful. It's just, this character is just, he knows how to sidestep every question that anyone poses to him. And his whole job is to trigger the Gola hate. Now, the Tlaxu are going to benefit regardless what the Gola does once Bijaz activates them. Activates the programming, the dormant programming. And the programming is for him to kill Paul. The irony of it being Paul's best friend and mentor killing Paul. That's the irony. Or the trauma and the stress of the conflicting, he's my best friend, I have to kill him, releases him from the gula and invokes his genetic memory of being Duncan, Idaho. Either way, the Tlaxu win because that's their goal. Their goal is to make a gula that is completely aware of its former life. Skytel is simply there to offer Paul a deal he can't refuse. But unfortunately for Skytel, Paul refuses it. Paul, through his prescience, understands that when Chani gives birth, she's going to die. So he's real cool with Irulan, feeding her contraceptives for like 15, 18 years so she doesn't have it. Irulan's hope is that he'll get frustrated and consummate their marriage, and she'll give birth to the imperial heir. It doesn't happen quite like that. This is going to be tricky. This is going to be interesting for Villeneuve to work around. I can see using some of the war stuff as filler because he's going to make a 2.5, 3 hour movie. And you've got a book that page by page, it's probably maybe an hour and a half movie, 2 hours at most. So I have a feeling Villeneuve is going to put in a lot of filler. The Children of Dune, when we get into Children of Dune, we have the heirs. We have Leto 2 and Ganima. One of the things that kind of bothers me and intrigues me in the trailer is Paul and Chani in a steel tent, and I mean, it's STIL, not STEEL. Steel tent. It's basically they're in a tent, and the tent's designed to pull moisture out of the air. But they're talking about the children. If she has a girl, she has a boy. Never happens in the novel because Paul has prescience. The only problem is Leto, for whatever reason, was hidden from his prescience. He knew about Ganima and wanted to name her Ganima, which translates both from Arabic and in the made-up Fremen language to either gift of war or prize of war. It's a curse. Ganima is a curse. That's all he sees in his prescient vision. So when Chani finally has had enough and has decided that fuck this place, fuck the royal palace, I'm going back to my roots, she goes back to the siege. She lives among her people as her people lived before Paul took the empire. But also, by this point, they're starting to terraform Arrakis into a lush green planet. It won't be fully complete till God Emperor Doom, but they're in the process. The book goes into great detail on the orchards and gardens and stuff like that. So yeah. How they're going to do the ascension of how they're going to handle that, because in the novel when we have the climax of Chani dying and Skytail basically going, look, telling Paul, look, we can take her body and we can make you a Chana Gola, and we know how to trigger the genetic memory now because of hate, or i.e. Duncan, Idaho. We know how to trigger the genetic memories. So if you want that, all you have to do is sign the Empire over to us, the Talaxu, and we have no problem doing that for you. And Paul basically tells him to fuck off. And he's like, oh, by the way, I'll kill your babies. And the thing is what happens, something I failed to mention. There's a sequence about halfway through the book in which Paul Atreides knows what's going to happen. He knows beforehand, but he knows in order for things to play out the way they need to, it has to happen. And that he goes into an ambush, they detonate, which is something called a stone burner, which is a very, very, very small nuclear device. The only thing I can figure is by this time they figured out how to clean a lot of the radiation out of the bomb at detonation, and or they have ways of cleaning the area very quickly after a nuclear explosion. And basically it burns out Paul's eyes. He just has sockets. And because of his prescience, he's able to still see. So under Fremen tradition, the blind are supposed to go out to the desert and give themselves the Shai-Hulud, the giant worms. Which Shai-Hulud is also a Arabic, it's a Anglicization of one of the Arabic words for God. So what Paul does is after he gets his eyes burned out and they're talking, the whole thing of the Fremen tradition comes up, he's like, look, that's Fremen tradition, and those who want to honor it, free to. But those that want to, the Empire will pay for them to get Talaxu eyes, either the steel eyes or regular human eyes. It's up to them. Cost is not, money is not going to be a factor here. And when his kids are born and he hears the announcement that Chani's dead, he loses all his prescience. And he's just a blind Fremen at that point. And Skytail is like, look, we'll get you the eyes, we'll make you a Chani Gola, we'll ensure that you easy life from here on out, nothing going on, but all you have to do is sign the Empire over to the Tlaxu. And like I said, Paul ain't trying to hear that. And Skytail's like, I'll just kill your babies then. But because of Fremen tradition and because of the amount of spice in the novel, Chani is a priestess, not a Fedaykin warrior. She's a priestess. So she's been taking the spice just in huge amounts in order to try to purge her body so she could get pregnant. So both Ganima and Leto are pre-born, which means at birth they have all those memories. And Leto uses his prescience to allow Paul to see through his eyes to take Skytail out, beforehand. And I think from from what I've seen in the trailer is that I think that's pretty much because they keep showing the war and fighting and stuff. I think Villeneuve is going to use that as filler, and at some point they may come back, either Villeneuve or another director, and go into Children of Dune, or finish out Children of Dune, and get into God Emperor Dune, Heretics, Chapter House. And I hope Chapter House is where they stop. But the whole ascension of Leto, the merging of Leto with the worm, I think that's where they're going to end it. And in the novel, Ganima, when all this happens, Ganima and Leto are 12, 13 years old. So they're going to probably age him up definitely for this movie. And probably when Leto has his ascension and all that plays out. And Irulan, basically, because of Chani's death, she feels that she murdered Chani, and she decides she's going to be the caretaker and take care of the children after Paul decides, I'm useless, I don't have any prescience right now, and he fucks off to the desert to complete the ritual of giving himself the Shai-Hulud. And I think that's kind of where they're going to end everything in this movie, kind of like they did in the miniseries. Now, hopefully somebody picks up the baton and we get, like I said, we get the resolution of Children of Dune, we get God Emperor Dune, and all that. So, yeah. I'm looking forward to the movie. I'm going in understanding that this isn't Frank Herbert's universe. This is Denis Villeneuve's Dune universe. You got to treat it like you do comics. You got to treat movies like that sometimes. So that's about it. That's how I'm feeling Dune right now. So Dune 3, I should say. Dune thrice. So I'll go ahead and let you all go. Remember, to be a good human, to be good to other humans. Peace.
Hey, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?